All right. Now, today's topic again is technology and your child's capacity. How to power up the natural computer in your child today. Nowadays, you might have heard about all sorts of cool technology that parents are using to help their kids to help develop their kids' abilities and make learning more engaging. Power up is something we associate with video games, especially nowadays. You might have heard of a video game called Pokemon Go, and the kids are running around collecting Pokemon. Now, that kind of shows you the power of technology to make things quite engaging. But the question remains, is this enough to help develop your child's ability? So that's kind of one of the main things we'll be discussing today. Now, I'm just going to get some of information here. Going to move on to the next. And today, we'll talk about the first and the most important step in giving your child the ability to develop their learning potential. We'll give you the tools to help power up your child's natural computer. What does that mean for you as a parent? How can you make your child become the best they can be? And then also we'll give you the tools you need to optimize this computer. Many times, or we often hear, you know what, when I have a child, I really don't have an instruction manual to help raise my child. But you know what? Actually, we have lots of manuals nowadays. Now the problem isn't that there aren't any manuals to help your child. There are actually too many. So how can you sort out the right method for your child? So through our experience, many decades of experience here in Shichida, we found lots of things that are going to work specifically in terms of their learning. Obviously, there's other components like nutrition and the social component as well. But in our webinar today, we'll focus on the tools you need to optimize their own natural abilities. As you know, technology is really changing our lives. Before, we used to have computers that had very low memory. Now, on your phone, you would have more power than many spaceships that were sent to the moon back in the 60s. This is not only affecting us in terms of making life more convenient, but it's also changing our brains. Okay, is somebody having trouble listening? I'm just gonna. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna. Thank you for that. I'm gonna check and see if. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I have some folks saying that they can't hear. Testing, testing. Just want to make sure. If you can't hear me, please. Okay, good, good. Okay, I'll try to get close to the microphone as well so that everybody can hear. So this is an example of how technology is kind of changing our lives. We're communicating via online networks, which is convenient, but we can have some difficulties at times. But again, this technology is rewiring our child's brain because it's making them think differently. It's making their brain architecture differently. We have to remember that the child has a very malleable brain. The brain, if, for example, if the child has trouble with say a trauma, or they fall in a river or something, a very young child can survive this sort of brain trauma. As we get older, we have less ability to cope with any damage to our brain. A child's brain is still developing. So even though they can survive different trauma, it's also very important that they're raised in an environment that still can be healthy and free of chemicals. So it's really important to have that foundation in a healthy environment. But not only is the environment important in terms of no toxins, good nutrition, but also the learning capacity of the child is growing exponentially during this sensitive period between 0 and 3. So it's important to lay the foundation also through lots of different tools that we'll be showing you today. So as parents, you have a very kind of, not a difficult dilemma, but a very important dilemma as far as helping your child develop mentally. The impact of technology gives your child the ability to educate themselves by themselves with, say, a touch screen or a computer or something like that. So many parents buy lots of apps and buy the tools or buy the different technologies, thinking that it will give the child the edge. So if you just think that all you need is this computer or this app, you might actually be neglecting one of the most important computers or technologies that already exists in your child, and that's their brain. Okay, so you have to remember that your child already has powerful tools that will help them learn innately. And unlocking the secrets to those tools is actually more important than finding the right app or the right smartphone to help your child learn. Now, the question we ask you is, what if we showed you an easier way? Granted, it is easy to buy an app, but what's the point of buying an app that won't be used later on? And have you, as a parent, felt that deep down inside, the technology might not be a sufficient solution to teach your child on a deeper level? Do you think that maybe there's something lacking with the technology that you feel maybe you could complement the knowledge in a different way? Do you wish, as a parent, that you can use the amazing tools already present in your child's brain? What does that actually mean? So these burning questions, we're going to give you some answers to today. We know that these things work, these ideas work, because we've been doing this for decades. Not only Shichida as well. There's a lot of independent researchers, especially nowadays. The brain is a big focus for lots of researchers, trying to find out the ways that the brain connects both in children and adults. Now, we have our friend Shichi today, and Shichi will highlight some of the better examples for you. So Shichi, welcome to our presentation. You'll be seeing more of Shichi in the next few years, hopefully in Shichida. He's going to be a big part of helping make the learning processes fun for kids, but also for adults, because when you see Shichi, he's going to be kind of the guiding light for you in terms of finding the best, most efficient, and easy tools to help develop your child's learning potential. Now, how do we vet these these ideas? Do we just kind of choose any one of these ideas? We've chosen 5 particular keys today that we found are very important. Now, these will help empower you because these are secrets to developing your child's natural talent. It doesn't matter who the child is, in the sense that every child has it in them to learn in their own unique way, which means that you need to see what your child is, what they like, what they dislike. And this will give you lots of power in helping engage them and make them motivated to learn. We also vet these by finding actual and practical examples. So research is all well and good. It's very important to lay the foundations to see why things work. But in actuality, the way it works is people do it, find it works, and then they find out a reason why it works. Which is, even though we do it both ways, through the years that we've taught Shichida lessons here in Japan and around the world, we found that these actually work. They're very practical and they don't take lots of time. The third thing or quality for these 5 crucial keys that we used was thinking of putting this power in your hands, making sure that you felt in control and that you could use these at any time, anywhere with your child. This will also not only give you the power and the control in the sense that you feel confident, but you translate that confidence into your child. Because if your child feels that you know what you're doing, if you're having fun as well, they're going to have fun as well. So it's very important that we give you this ability to help your child. At the end of this, of course, we'll offer you a special offer, so make sure to stay with us to the end. And again, there's lots of new and exciting things happening at Shichida. So we're very excited, especially this year, to do lots of cool things. Again, it's based on the foundation, but we're always developing and finding ways to help communicate these wonderful ideas to you. Now, what are these 5 tools to help power up your child's brain ability and how to bring up your child's potential? Let's have a look. Now, these very useful kind of tools that we try to find for you, we kind of use the term SCORE, SCORE. This is how we came up with these particular tools. S, in this case, and this is kind of a way to help you remember. We say we've surveyed parents' questions. We asked them for real examples. What are some things that really make parents worried? What are some things that parents, if they knew or if they had the power in their hands, it would make their life easier? C stand for it complements, meaning our main component are the Shichida lessons, of course. And while those can't be replicated outside the classes, if parents had some sort of activity to complement or to enrich the outside environment, maybe at home or while they're going out doing errands, those activities, if they complement the real class or extend even. So for example, if you're learning about letters during the class, the letter A, for example, and you go outside and look for apples or ants or sort of cool stuff like that, the kids will get more motivated. So complement is a very important part of those keys. O stands for one thing. You just need to find that one thing that will inspire your child. So it could be dinosaurs, it could be princesses, it could be castles, it could be vehicles. What is the one thing that will make your child excited about learning? And believe me, once you find that one thing, learning becomes play. For a child, learning is actually play. But when they're passionate or when they're doing something they like, it makes it even more exciting for them and easier for you as parents. R stands for results. Results meaning that you actually see the change in your child. Now, I've been teaching here for more than 5 years, and my career has been a teacher. So I've been teaching a few decades, which kind of surprises me when I actually think of it. So I've been in different teaching environments. So as a Shichida teacher in the beginning, I was, oh well, how much can I really teach this like 6-month-old child or this 2-year-old child? And over the years, before my eyes, I've seen the wonderful results we get. Not only does a child grow in terms of their numeracy, their literacy, and their critical thinking, they become so creative and so passionate about learning. They actually ask their parents, can I do my homework? Please I don't want to go now because I'm doing my maths tables. Now, if you can get a child to really want to do math, that's a win already. But this is something that you've ingrained in them. These results are all encompassing. It's whole brain training at work. E stands for executable. Something you could do today, now. You get home, you get a piece of paper, you get a little pencil, do 2 minutes, teach a concept, you're done. Let the child play. This is easy for you because you don't feel the pressure. Well, I'm not really sure if I'm really teaching them. You know what? You are teaching them every single day. Whether or not you sit with them at a table and a chair, while you're walking in the park and you're showing them a bird and maybe you see a magpie and you say, well, the magpie is black and white. Just by saying those words, you're actually teaching them something. Now, what we do at Shichida is we have a whole system from 6 months to 9 years in Shichida Australia. We create a comprehensive program that adds success upon success upon success. Now, at home, you can also do that. You can do those little things, again, going back to the C point, that complement the child's learning, that has the one thing that can help them, that brings results but you can do in 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. We have to remember, again, the child's attention is their age plus 1 minute. So if you have a 2-year-old child, their attention span will be 3 minutes. So a lot of parents want to sit with their child for an hour, and that's commendable, but really it's about quality time, not quantity. Again, so SCORE is the way that we try to find the best keys for you. Now, one of the main things that we focus on, we'll give you 5 different points, 5 different components, 5 different keys to help develop the natural abilities in your child. Look at this picture here and notice, well, there's a picture of a camera on the side. Uh, you don't actually need an app. You can use your phone in a way, but it's not 100% necessary. In this case, because the phone is helpful, we'll give you an idea. All you need is a ruler, a piece of paper, a little Sharpie, and 4 of their favorite objects in this case. The first key, again, will be focusing on memory. So, step 1, gather all the parts together here. And then with your Sharpie, just make a little grid and use the ruler to keep the lines straight. And then put the 4 objects in any order. You could put, for example, in this case, you have the kitty, the button, the hamster, the blue hamster, and the doggy. Now, remove the objects. And again, you can take a picture. You probably should be able to remember, but if you want an extra hand, you can take a picture to remember where you put them. And then ask the child, can you put them in the same place that I had them before? And then the child can actually try to put them back. Now, this is a great way to help improve sequential memory as well, but also it helps them to focus, actually helps them focus on the, let me just go back here, helps them focus on their ability to remember photographic memory. This is important too because the child's right now from 0 to 3 during the sensitive period is in right brain mode, so they're very visually active at this stage. They're taking everything. So you're actually not only developing and strengthening this ability, but when they turn 3, they start switching to more left brain thinking. So if you want to maintain that ability to be able to visualize and use their imagery, which is very important for memory, numeracy, and literacy, then this particular activity, the click and remember activity, is really fun. You can use more than four toys as well. It doesn't have to be 4 toys, and you can make a bigger grid. And you can make 16, 8. Again, you want to make sure that the child is having fun. If they're crying while you're doing this, you want to stop. All right, so another activity that you can use to help the first component, again, we're still with memory, is the toys in a row activity. So the way you do this is you put toys in a row for the child, about 5 toys in this case, and then you can tell a silly story, or we call it a linking story. Again, take a photo if you like, because you can write it down too. It doesn't have to be a picture, but photos are easy. And then again, you mix up the toys and put them in a box. Now, again, you have to ask the child, can you please put the toys in the same order? This is a little different from the previous activity. You still have these toys, but in this case, instead of putting them in a grid, you put them in order. So we read from left to right. So in this case, you would have a little kitty, the dog, the button, and the hamster. An example of the silly story that you can use in this case is, okay, now I'm going to tell you a story here. One day there was a little kitty and it turned into a little dog. The dog jumped on a huge button and went to visit his friend the hamster. Okay, so that's quite a quirky little story, and those are the type of very internally, visually enriched stories that help stimulate the child's concentration level. When the child does these sort of things, it can help their sequential memory, a little different from the previous activity, which is photographic memory. So already, just by using the same toys, you can do 2 different activities. Now, we have another third activity that we focus on with memory. This is called the "What Did We Do Today" activity. Quite easy. At the end of the day, during bedtime or driving in the car at home, think of a time when the child is comfortable and snuggled up, maybe in their seatbelt, because children feel quite comfortable in a car. You can ask them what their favorite activity was during the day. Now, this is important because it can stimulate their memory, but the most important point that I really, really want to make here is number 3, do not judge them. So just listen. Just listen and see what they say, because you will be amazed by the things that they notice. By doing this, you'll help your child connect and listen, connect with your child and help them feel valued, because this will, to a child's mind, will feel like it's quality time. So it's a very important investment in your child, but in a way where they don't feel that they need to be careful with what they say. Again, if you do this from the beginning when they become teenagers, it will really help you out, because if you haven't established this sort of connection with your child from the beginning, then it's going to be really, really hard to do that when they become teenagers. Okay, so this is quite important. Again, this is another reason with technology, while it's wonderful to have it, the most important thing is to use these natural abilities in yourself, in the child, and the human bond, the human connection that's vital to our growth. So again, we had those three activities for memory. The second point we'll make is numeracy. This is, again, we'll do memory and numeracy. And we'll give you an activity here. It's called counting veggies and fruits activity. Now, I just want to make a point. Again, the reason we do memory is because memory, think of memory as the structure of a house. If you don't have the knowledge, then if you want to be creative, you have less to work with. So even though we have Google, we have our phones, we have hard drive storage, we still need our brains, because if we don't know that we don't know, there's no way that we can problem solve appropriately. However, it is important to have numeracy. Numeracy obviously is counting numbers, value, trying to figure out how things work in terms of value. Now, we often think of numeracy as something boring, but in this activity, the counting veggies and fruits activity, all you have to do is go to the supermarket, something you probably do every weekend or once or twice a week with your child, and then when you get a particular veggie, it doesn't have to be every veggie. Maybe it's when you get strawberries or their favorite one, you take the bag and you count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And guess what? The child is probably going to want to count another veggie or another fruit. You can also say colors too, but numbers in this case is a fun thing to start out with, because this is a great opportunity. And the other thing that we forget is that the child needs to be involved physically. We take it for granted in schools that kids sit at the table, teachers in the front, and the children learn. That type of learning is visual learning, and also they're hearing through their ears. That's called auditory learning. Now, a lot of kids learn in different ways. Okay, so a lot of kids learn through touch. A lot of kids learn through speaking as well. So a lot of children actually need to feel and touch the object. So when you're counting the veggies, it's so valuable to have them place the veggies inside the bag one at a time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as parents, you are probably very, very busy, and you might think to yourself, look, I just want to get this over with. I just want to do shopping. But you know what? Giving them those extra few minutes to use their hands and put the stuff inside the bag will actually be more valuable than spending an hour at home trying to force them to do learning. And it actually has a valuable side benefit. A lot of kids, when they go into the shops, they're really focused on that lolly or that toy that they want to buy for that. Probably because they're bored. They don't know. They're just sitting on the trolley. So by helping them count, actually, can be really good way to avoid those terrible tantrums, that especially during the terrible twos. Learning can happen anytime in any place. If you teach this as well to your child, it can be so valuable, because they'll be hungry to learn at any point. Another numeracy activity is called the Let's Prepare to Eat activity. You can do this during breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Again, the child can help count utensils like forks, spoons, etc., depending what the meal is. And they practice counting the cups, the utensils, or even if you want to give an extra challenge, the serving size. Maybe you can say, well, I have 2 cups of rice, which I boil, or something like that. And you can show them how much 2 cups of rice is, for example. Now, again, you're thinking not only of helping them with numeracy, but again, you get that wonderful side benefit. Previously, we talked about avoiding tantrums at the shops. But in this case, at home, it's a great way to help kids learn. They're actually learning how you're cooking. Now, would you rather have a 20-year-old that's never seen you cook and has no idea how a meal is made, or would you rather start training your child from very, very young that actually cooking and making a meal can be an enjoyable and wonderful experience? Those memories that you create with your child during those meals will be lasting and they will be fun memories for them. You can do this also during laundry, so helping with laundry pegs. Okay, so again, you don't want that 25-year-old coming to bring their dirty laundry to your house. Maybe if they can do their own laundry, and again, you can count the pegs or see the colors as well. There's many other things you can do at home, other household chores that are age appropriate as well. This is the let's prepare to eat activity. Another numeracy activity is one of my favorites. It's called What Number is on Your Toy activity. Many times I have kids in my class and they bring their little car, their little doll or animal, and they obviously love this toy and they refuse to let it go. And we know they love the toy. Now, in office works, for example, or in an office stationery shop, you can often buy rolls of stickers that are just circles. And on each circle, if you peel one off, you can put a number on it. Say that the child has five of his or her favorite cars, and you take five of those stickers and put them on the car. On each sticker, you put a number. Now, you can match that number. For example, you can use a poster and write those numbers on that poster, maybe put it on the ground, and they can actually match their little toy with the number. Again, remember, their age or the attention is their age plus 1 minute. So say you have their five toys. Say the toys each has a number, respectively, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Say you have the poster on the ground with maybe little circles with the numbers as well. Show them for, if they're 2-year-olds, for 3 minutes, hey, this is how you do it, and then let them play. What's going to happen? They're going to find that they're going to start creating that internal motivation to learn. Ooh, what if I play this way? What if I do that? They'll start associating numbers with play. They're already doing that naturally. They already think learning is play anyways, but they're making that positive association with numeracy as well, which will help later on. Kids will come up with their own number games. Just let them go after those 3 minutes and sit back, have a tea, and observe them. And you'll be amazed by the cool games they'll play, especially if they have a siblings. They'll start coming up with their own rules, and it's pretty amazing to see how they have this natural ability to come up with different types of games just with these toys. Now, we talked memory, we talked numeracy. The third point out of the 5 is literacy, reading. Let's read together activity is one of the activities that parents probably are already doing. Input is so important between the ages of 0 and 3. We encourage, it's part of our curriculum to just focus on giving them, reading to them from 0 to 3. And then from 4 and up, we do focus on output. But the beauty of not putting undue expectations of them between 0 and 3 is that they feel free to absorb as much. They start asking you questions. You start with the what questions, then they start with the why questions, and they naturally will want to learn more. They'll read a book a million times because kids like that sense of repetition. So if you're already doing this, definitely pick your favorite reading time. Any time that you're already doing this, during bedtime or during when you go to the library. And then again, do not test your child. This is not a test. You're just spending that quality time reading together. Then the most important part, ask them, what was the impression of the story? This is a great way to introduce reading as quality time and not as testing time. And you'll also kind of get an insight into what they enjoy, because you'll find the types of books they like. Maybe if you, instead of buying them a lolly at the store in case they have a tantrum, you could focus on finding a book related to their interests, kind of to as a distraction. So it does come as a practical tool later on. The second reading activity is, again, an extension to what we did in the first activity for literacy. This is story time questions activity. Again, this is not to test your child, but to encourage engagement and fun. Remember that when you engage their hearts and emotions, you understand how they feel. And when you understand how they feel, you engage their minds as well. This is really, really important. So remember that what they say is important, and not to judge it as well. It's important to do this because you're actually showing them that when they read a book or when they do their own research, they could find ways of growing personally. So I'm just going to change this here. What they say is important here. There we go. That's better. Oops. Did a little umlaut here. So it's important to understand what they say and not judge them as well. So again, do this during very comfortable times. Maybe you're snuggling, and maybe before bedtime, or even in the car. If you're driving, maybe kind of have that little chat with them. Now, an important side note to remember is that we talked about memory before, and again, all these points are related. Memory previously, we talked about how that is the structure. During literacy, you're actually testing their memory in a way. Not testing, but kind of, let's just say, helping them practice to remember remembering. Okay, and in this way, you're actually strengthening memory as well. And even say if you have a book on numbers or on numbers of animals, you can ask, well, remember that book that we read? How many spiders were on that page? And then usually spiders are quite impressionable animals. So, oh, I remember there were 3 spiders. And they can take that guess, and then you go back and you look and you can count together. Again, not in a way that you're judging them, but oh, good job. That was a really good guess. But this was actually how many there were. And they'll start learning and associating positive emotions with counting, numeracy, and literacy. Now, we're extending the literacy bit. This is called a world of 5 senses activity. I mentioned before that normally the way traditional education works is that the visual kids and the kids that listen, they're auditory kids. Those that have the strength, those are the ones that schools focuses on. The kids that need to touch things or they need to speak a lot, they can actually get in trouble a lot because the traditional classroom setting is not set up for those type of kids. Now, I personally am we call it kinesthetic, tactile, the touching kids. I like to, when I learn something, I like to touch it in my hands, break it apart, put it back together. And again, due to time constraints and the fact that there's 30 or 40 kids in traditional schools, it's really hard for those teachers to give that time. In our Shichida classes, we encourage, because it's a maximum of 6 kids during for our younger kids, that we encourage them not only to use their visual, but their hearing, but also touch. They get lots of interactive things. So in this literacy exercise, when you read a story or you do vocabulary or a picture book, look for the real object. So the example is if you have a story that talks about lemons, find a real lemon, cut it open, put it in their hands, and have them explore that. Have them taste it, how sour it tastes, smell it, see it, get messy. This will imprint that memory in the child even further. They will fully engage and strengthen their memory. One cool thing about lemons, I think you can actually, if you have lemon juice, you can actually write invisible ink as well. I might have to give you some tips on that later in a future list of activities. But particular to lemons, you could actually even write. I think if you use a heat or something, you can actually do invisible ink with lemons. It's pretty cool. So sky's the limit. Find real objects from the book they're reading, and you will open up their eyes. If they like dinosaurs as well, you can go to the museum. If they like trains, you can maybe go to a train station, maybe near the park that you go to, and maybe count the trains, see what color the trains are, see what different types of trains they are. Again, animals is another thing. There's lots of cool farm things in around Melbourne. I think in Abbotsford there's a kids farm there. You can check it out if they really enjoy farm animals. So there's a million things you can do with the world of five senses activity. We've talked about memory. We talked about sorry about that. Had a little call here. We've talked about literacy, and we've talked about numeracy. Now, this is kind of one of the very important things that we focus on is Shichida, but it's something maybe parents really have a hard time wrapping their heads around is how can I teach my child a love of learning? How can I actually make them feel inside that they want to learn? And this is one of the things that our curriculum really focuses on, and it's amazing once the child can do that. One of the best things, what best bits of advice we can give you is just be present for your child. What does that mean? It means put down the mobile phone. When you're in that 50-minute course at Shichida, it's so important to really pay attention. And we know you're tired, and we know that you might have had a stressful day, but those 50-minute lessons once a week, just put your phone down and listen to them. Because when you practice the art of listening, you are not just listening to your child, but you are modeling the way of listening for your child. Your child will imitate you. If you act in a way where you're not really listening, your child will start imitating you. If you put everything down and you listen to their ideas and what they have to say in a non-judgmental way, they will learn to do the same. Because by doing this, you'll be creating these moments to share and connect with your child as well. So this is obviously is important at home as well, because many parents uh, sometimes time with your child while you're doing activities is very important. So now, one of the bits of advice. So for example, you have we don't want you to feel too stressed out as parents. You could set a time limit for them, maybe if you're reading a book or a special time of the day. But it's important that during that particular time of day to create the habit of actually listening, because they will follow your example. I'm not sure if you've seen the driving. There's a commercial out by the government that when, especially if you're driving, your child will actually imitate your good and bad driving habits. A lot of kids are actually not doing so well with their driving uh, uh, classes because they're seeing what the parent is doing and not what they're being taught by the parent. Another way to instill that love of learning is to remember that you are their first teacher. So if you feel ambivalent about learning, if you feel stressed out by learning, if you feel stressed out by numbers and letters and memory, again, what's going to happen? If you're confused, they will be confused. If you are having fun, they will be having fun. So remember when we talked about before, one of the reasons, or one of the main things we focus on is finding that one thing that will help leverage your child, that one thing they'll be passionate about, whether it's dinosaurs, princesses, trains, cars, automobiles, whatever. It's not just about the child, it's about you. What do you like? What can you bring to the table? Because if you are passionate about one particular thing, you can bring that too. Maybe you like reading, maybe you like tea, maybe you like music. Think of something that you can share with your child that you can both spend quality time with. You are the best teachers that they have. And the best teachers can be the best students as well. So it's a vice versa. As a teacher, as a Shichida instructor, I have learned so much from both parents and kids, and hopefully I've imparted something with them. It's a very interactive and engaged process that you can, when you're at home, again, this is their first exposure to somebody that can give them something. Again, if you are not sure, well, what am I going to teach them? How am I going to teach them? We'll give you these webinars. You've already seen lots of cool and simple activities that do not require an app. We've given you these already. So again, we'll keep giving you these out. So we're going to be hopefully a rich resource for you. To continue the idea of love of learning, remember to encourage the effort, not the result. The process is the most important thing because the process is what will create the foundation for success. If you do not do the hard work, if you don't do the hard yakka, guess what? You're not going to succeed. Whether you fail or succeed, if you don't put in the work, you're going to fail in the end because there's no foundation. The other thing, no mistakes, no learning. This is how our brains work. You cannot go around this one. If you're always finding the right answers, when reality sets in and shows you answers that are contrary to what you thought, you will not have the ability to problem solve. However, if you both have right and wrong answers, if you see a mistake and you get that negative feedback and you try to solve the problem through problem solving techniques, you will get better and better and better and better. This is called enjoying the process, which leads to independent learning. Now, with kids, obviously, we want them to succeed. We want them to be the best. We want them to be independent in life. So initially, we encourage from 0 to 3, give them those training wheels. But little by little, you're going to have to let go. And guess what? They're going to go on their own. They're going to fly. If you don't let go, you're going to be a heavy anchor. And it's going to be really tough for them because they will never learn how to become independent learners or even independent adults. Do not take away your child's best learning tools. Learning from their own mistakes. And you know this is true. You know this is very important. Of course, we ask ourselves, well, look, if they make mistakes all the time, won't they lose their confidence? Well, look, language helps. So if they are particularly frustrated with one particular activity, we had a previous webinar before. It was called giving them breadcrumbs, where you give them the hints towards the answer, but you do not give them the full answer because then again you're taking away that learning opportunity. We had memory, we had numeracy, we had literacy, and love of learning. So love of learning is the internal feeling to enjoy the learning, but you need the fire, the motivation. The 5th point is motivation and how to create a love of learning that is intrinsic. Okay. So how do you know you've succeeded? If they become prime minister, well, maybe that might come in the future. They can become a train driver. They could be cleaning trash bins. It doesn't really matter. In the end, you win when your child asks you for more learning opportunities. That's how we gauge success. When your child says to you, Mommy, I really love doing those numbers. Can you buy me a book about numbers? Or Daddy, I really want to go to the museum because I was watching this thing in a classroom and I want to see those paintings. When your child asks you to go to the library to do research, when they ask you questions, when they ask you the what, the why, the how questions, this is when you've created that internal fire, the motivation for them to learn. Everything we do in a lesson is to encourage discovery and to instill that love of learning in our child because we guide them. We're the mediators towards that learning. Facilitators, if you can say it as well. And we realize that both challenges, as we talked before, mistakes and learning experience, as well as successes are crucial to learning. So you need a good balance between winning and losing. Because if you always lose and if you always win, of course it's going to be unbalanced. Now, one thing I want you to remember today, out of all these things that we tell you, one thing that I want you to keep repeating in your mind is that if you reach your child's heart, if you reach their emotions, you reach their minds as well. And this is true for humans. This is why marketers make commercials that try to touch our hearts. Marketers, commercials, they're teaching us to buy a product. But what we're teaching your child is to love learning ABCs, numeracy, critical thinking, to love their world, to try to find success, to try to problem solve. We are trying to connect to their hearts so they can become independent adults, independent learners, and have success in the world. The final activity related to motivation is to help your child become a world changer. Why do we do this? Why do I wake up in the morning and do this job? I do this because I see before my eyes the small, tiny changes we make in your child and see them grow exponentially as time goes on. I see this 6-month-old child develop into this amazing 5-year-old child that's ready to face the world, and it's full of confidence. And if they like or dislike something, it doesn't matter. They'll find a way in the world. This is what we all want. We want to help the child understand how the world works. We want them to see how the different part works, because then they'll be able to problem solve and succeed in life no matter what the situation. We want them to have empathy. You cannot do anything great alone, and to be able to understand other people helps you take on more responsibility and makes you a more successful person. We want them to understand what future they will make for themselves. Look, it's going to be tough in the next 50 years. The world is going to change, probably not for the better in certain ways, but it will potentially have lots of good technology, lots of cool ideas, lots of cool potential that we want your kids to be ready to take part in to make this world a better place. Isn't that something that you want for your child and your society? So remember, if you do not give them the right tools, it's 100% unfair to expect them to be able to understand all of these things. Give them those tools. Help them understand what they can work with and develop their innate abilities. You don't need a nap for that. Of course, it can be fun, but the child already has that in them. You just need to develop that for them. So what we do here at Shichida, and again, what we've kind of been talking about is, we mentioned before, we try to teach your child that their emotions, their passions, their goals. Once we do that, we can reach their minds as well. We can teach them how to fish. Once they learn how to fish, they can go out and fish on their own. For parents, we make it easy for you. We give you the fish cooked, grilled, any way you like it. Once a week, 50-minute lessons. Easy peasy. Again, it takes a lot of preparation, a lot of work to get to the point where we can do this comprehensive and engaging program. But once we give you these secret ingredients during the classes, the result is a well-balanced and fully engaged, happy child. All right, and to give you an idea of how we've incorporated the best of both worlds, East and West teaching styles. Obviously, Japan was developed Shichida was developed in Japan, and it's pretty nice the way we've taken in that sort of image training, the intuition, all of these sort of things that will help develop their minds, and also the more numeracy, the left brain activities where we do sequential learning, ABCs, critical thinking. So all of these combine to create a total development of their minds and heart. So getting back to the topic we discussed before, is that the tool in the computer that you really want to focus on is not the app or the new technology. You still want to keep going back to the most reliable and the most important computer. That's your child's mind. So if you look at this picture, this is the full component of what your child's mind is, and it's a wonderful thing. So to give you a closer look here, again, we focus on recitation, the fine motor skills, problem solving, language, critical thinking, and numbers that people most generally associate with learning. But we also give them a firm foundation in right brain training and image training, intuition games, eye muscle training, photographic memory training, and flashcards, the more right brain approach, which creates a whole brain approach. If you prepare the brain in this way, the results will be amazing. So we teach them how to learn, how to retain the knowledge, and to use it in any environment. We teach them how to learn from the inside out. Internally motivated means fun. If a child wants to do something, you've won. If they want to do homework, you are a winner. So, again, we set it up so it's inevitable that your child learns and improves as well. So the secret ingredients, whether you're with us during Shichida or where you're at home, we want you to focus on these 5 different parts. Again, unconditional love, because that helps them to feel uh, motivated in themselves, like feel the confidence in themselves. The stuff that we provide, the material we provide, is age appropriate. So whether they're 6 months or 5 years old or 9 years old, the material is a perfect challenge, not too difficult, not too easy for them. It's purposeful. It leads towards a particular goal, and it builds on success. We work in partnership with you. Instructors and parents work together. And again, we start young. It's very important to focus on the 0 to 3 years old. And there's lots of research done on this, not just from us, but researchers are finding that. So if you type in critical period or sensitive period in Google, you'll find how important it is. And remember that one of the main things that we do focus on that really sets us apart from other programs is we focus on memory. This is something that a lot of people ignore because, well, I have an app, I have an iPhone, I have a computer. Why do I need to develop my memory? Guess what? If you don't have it in your brain, there's no way you can use it to really fully take advantage of creativity or critical thinking. You need to keep going back to memory because it is the basis of all learning. So we have a great offer for you. Thank you so much for staying with us, and we hope you benefited. Again, this is just the beginning, and the Shichida method is the perfect environment that we've found. And we do have the offer of a free class for all new parents. So just make sure that you haven't been to a free trial class yet. If you've taken advantage of this, sorry. We do offer we can give you a schedule, but you do have to be a new parent. You do have to not have come from a previous class. Again, we will give you more resources if you have any further questions. The free trial class is a real class environment. It's a regularly scheduled class, so that means that this is a class that's actually happening, so you can actually get that first-hand experience with real kids in the class. Of course, there's an engaged, enabled instructor like me who loves what they do. This, while I don't mind having coffee, being a teacher really gives me that energy and that drive to just keep coming every day and trying to develop my abilities as an instructor, and hopefully for you as well. Again, act now. Space is limited. And if you have any more questions, call us at 1-300-FUN and GROW, 1-300-3866-4769, or you can click on the link in email that we'll send, go to our page at shichida.com.au. All right, thank you so much. I'm just gonna switch it off. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. If you have any Q&A sessions here, we'll have a little Q&A sessions for you. If you have any questions, please. Hold on 1 second here. So please, if you have any questions, just talk to us via chat, and we'll gladly answer your questions. So again, the chat function is at the bottom, and it's where it says attendees. Click on that, and then it says invite others. Do not click on that. Go to everyone, and you'll see the chat that talks to everyone. Or I think you might have that, but basically, I'll send you a quick chat here. And yes, so we've just put there. Please quote webinar dash or hyphen AUG 16 when you call to book in your trial class. Again, this is available only to new parents. 1-300-FUN and GROW, 1-300-3866-4769. Okay, Wonderful question. Just got, while we understand that child's brain is the best tool and parents are the best teachers, at what age should we introduce technology for learning? Guess what? Uh, you had technology from day one, whether it was ultrasound, whether it was the MP3 player. Um, Probably what you're talking about is the touch phone or smartphone type of thing or iPad. Um, so, look, this can be a particularly emotional thing. Even our teachers, when one of their kids or their children is in the restaurant, and you just want them to sit and not do anything, and we understand there are times where you need something, and that's perfectly understandable. What we're talking about today is not that you should or shouldn't use technology, but you should know what the technology means relative to their own brains, relative to their own abilities and skills. Kids innately know how to use technology, probably from one or two. They know how to open your phone and find those cool apps. The reason being is that the technology itself is created with that in mind. The whole focus of the development and the research for technology is how to make technology where even a child can use it. So I've gone to Apple and I've seen kids that are maybe 1.5 pick up a phone and start poking at it. Um, and that's all well and good. That's fine. So that technology is just as good as blocks, is just as good as pencil and paper. So your perspective shouldn't be should I introduce or not introduce, but your perspective should be how to create that internal structure using their own natural abilities. So if you think that introducing technology at a too early date, um, uh, then maybe if that might keep them from developing their own abilities, then maybe you want to wait a little longer. Uh, Today, what we again wanted to offer you is options to help encourage for you to take advantage of the sensitive periods and to do other activities as well. So, look, at the end of the day, unless you're in a cave, the child will learn technology. But we want to make sure that before you introduce it, um, you have something up your sleeve, so you have other options and ideas to do rather than depending on the technology per se. We don't want you to use it as sort of a pacifier or as a dummy for the child. What age? Really, we can't. That's sort of something that you have to decide eventually. But again, we want to make sure that they don't become dependent on it, like sugar or, or something like that. Um, we want to make sure that you try to use these examples. For example, I'll show you here. Um, Go back to this one here. So for this activity, actually, you might be taking a picture with your phone. So if you can complement the technology with the home activity, the touching activity, then I think that's a good way to do it. I hope that answers your question. It's a quite an emotion. Thank you, thank you too. It's again. I don't want to set at 2.5 or 3 or 5. I don't want to set a specific date. What we want to give you today is just options, so you don't feel guilty that that you have to have you're dependent on the technology. You want to make sure that you have other ways of engaging your child and recognizing that they have the innate ability to really learn on their own with your help and with the kind of the stuff that we do here. Thank you again for that. I have another question here. I found that my child, who is 3.5 years old, has really short attention span, and she is constantly not paying attention in her sports class. Does that mean we are exposing her to too much screen time? Um, Look, thank you for that. That's a wonderful question, and that's you know what? That's a wonderful insight. I don't honestly. I don't know what the habits are at home, but yes, this for us as teachers, when we see a child that is say maybe 3.5, and they're really just having a hard time focus, yes, we'll have to say that having too much screen time, having that passive kind of screen time, does decrease the attention span. Remember, attention span is actually a learned skill. So it's sort of a muscle. You don't suddenly turn 7 and then just say to yourself, "Oh, I can concentrate now." No, it's like having a bicep. I really want to have awesome biceps and look like a muscle man. Obviously, every day I need to train and work towards that goal. And concentration is the same thing. Don't think that concentration is an age-related thing. Concentration is a thing related to constant application of having your child extend that attention span. So if they're 3.5 plus 1 minute, they should at least be able to sit for around 5 minutes focusing on something. And sometimes if they love something, about 4 or 5 minutes, that's especially for that age. Um, again, that's one thing that we do caution. Again, I don't know your particular habits at home as far as the screen time. It is easy, of course, it is easy, and kind of between doing these at home activities and just watching TV passively, in between you have the more interactive type activities, which can be fun. So you can complement all of those, but be very, very careful with the passive kind of glazed over TV screen time activities, because that will decrease their concentration ability, their attention, because they're just craving that. Just take a look at a TV program for half an hour, and it will be changing constantly. So it just overstimulates a child in a way where they really aren't using their own internal tools or their own internal computer as well. So be very careful. We can give you more ideas on concentration maybe in the future as far as that. So again, doing these activities today will give your child that head start. All right. So thank you for that question. That was a wonderful question. I have another question here. Should primary school age kids be encouraged to learn coding, or should they be encouraged to build their strengths, focusing on more traditional maths and literacy type subjects for future success? That's a cool question. I actually started coding at an older age myself, thinking that, well, this might be very important. The first thing I'm going to tell you is that computers are going to take over coding. I was actually flying on a plane to Malaysia, and I sat next to this guy working at IBM. And what he does essentially is, he says, I asked him, "What do you do?" And he says, "I train computers." And I said, "What do you mean you train computers?" Like, I train computers. So what he actually does is instead of having a programmer work from assembly, then the higher level of programming function, programming, we're getting to a point where the quote unquote programmers, the human component, just has to teach what they want to the computer without programming, and the computer will do it automatically. And then there'll be this kind of training mode. So this is now in the next few years, as things get more amazing and complicated. Uh, Basically, computers are going to take over. Now, remember, coding is actually pretty cool. If you like coding, we're still going to need coders, but we have to think, what is the basis of coding? Coding is logical thinking and problem solving. So a child's foundation of language and numeracy needs to be there still. And of course, maths will help with this as well. Now, here's the other thing. We don't know what we're going to need in the next 30 years. What we need in the next 30 years, we'll have to imagine it and come up with it using these five key components of numeracy, literacy, memory, love of learning, and motivation. We'll get to a point where maybe computers will be in our own brains. Maybe we'll complement our own brains with computers, because computers will eventually get smarter than us. But to fully focus on coding as a way, well, I'll be a coder in the future. Well, you have to. That's great, but you still need to focus on the main points of logical thinking, problem solving, numeracy, language, and so on as well. So yes. Focus on their traditional maths and literacy types to give them that edge, but in a way where it's whole brain training. Thank you for that. That's a cool question. Um, I have another question here. We speak two languages at home, and my almost 3 year old seems to have troubles learning new words and talking. Is that normal, or are there ways I can help him learn and improve literacy? Sorry, I'm just going to turn off my phone here. That's a cool question. I actually, at home, I actually speak Spanish with my mom, and when I was actually born speaking Spanish. And yes, when I was a kid, I had to learn English when I was 3. And there, now we have to think logically. What's going on when we have a home language and then we have to adapt to a new language? We have to learn vocabulary for two things. So if we have cup in English and then we have another language, you have to learn cup in that language as well. So you're learning twice as many things. And remember, we can say cup, we can say mug, we can say thermos, we can say all sorts of different words. So every one of those will have a different word. So what the child that speaks two or more languages is trying to do is trying to find out the important components, that the meaning of objects, and that takes time. But the thing you have to remember is that the child doesn't differentiate. They don't know it's in one language or another. They'll absorb it over time. So while for us it's far more difficult to learn a new language, a child will learn it in months. I learned English in 3 months as a child, just enough to speak. So obviously, consistency. If there's one thing that you want to do to help improve his literacy, is follow some of the ideas we gave you today, uh, and the other thing is consistency. Consistency. Do not mishmash the languages, because if the child is learning the basic fundamental parts of language, so if you combine the different parts of the language at home and there's no consistency, they'll think that's how you speak that language. So if you mix French with English and so on, that they'll think that's how you speak. So if mother speaks one language, father speaks another, stick to that language. Or if you mother and father speak one language at home that's not English, then just stick with that. The child will catch up. If you freak out and you stress out, the child will freak out and stress out. So so relax, don't worry. And guess what? I am so thankful. I learned I kept my Spanish, obviously my English, and the Spanish actually helped me learn Japanese and French. I'm teaching myself Greek now because I live in Oakley. So having the ability to learn these languages helped me learn other languages. All right, so hopefully that gives you some idea. Okay, thank you for that. It's wonderful. Please help them keep their home language. They will learn English. That's if they're in Australia. Don't worry about that. Okay, I don't see any more questions. We'll put this up. We'll send you all emails. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. We'll send you all emails with the links, and hopefully, if you have any more questions, just email us. Again, free trial classes for new parents. Wonderful having you, everyone. You have a wonderful day, and we hope to hear from you soon. Have a very good day.